Okay, hello. Not sure how to explain this exactly to you. And it's something new, and I guess it started for us today. Well, not for me, but for my ex-wife. My ex-wife, and I've mentioned this before, my ex-wife and myself and my grown son, we share this apartment. We share the expenses for rent and electricity and all that type of stuff. I pay actually for most of the stuff. We don't share it exactly equally. And I pay for the internet, of course, and for all of the Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all this type of stuff. My ex-wife is handicapped. Well, she's been handicapped since she was 5 years old. She was the polio. She got polio when she was like 5, and then the. Did I just laugh? You probably don't even know what polio is. And then the vaccine came out, and that was basically in the United States and most everywhere else in the world. That was the end of polio. But she was, a lot of children. It was called infantile paralysis. Let's see if there's an age difference between so I was older. I was 26 when we got married, so she was 18, so that's the age difference. So I remember as a kid, when summer came around, that's when the polio would hit. They would close pools, close parks, close movie theaters during the summer. And on the news every day, there'd be reports, of how many children had polio and that type of stuff. Anyway, when we got married, she was, well, when she got polio, she was in the hospital for months. And her polio did not affect her lungs, luckily. A lot of children ended up dying. A lot of them ended up in iron lungs. Hers was, her legs and stuff. So then when she was going to school, she was wearing, big heavy braces. And then when we got married, she used crutches to get around, but inside the house, she was able to walk across the room, maybe hold a wall or something. And so anyway, now of course it's gotten worse for her, and she got polio, which was caught in time. Not polio. She got cancer a few years ago. We've been divorced for, let's see, I've been telling, I think, on here that I just turned 90. And no, I just turned 80. And I mentioned to the ex-wife or something about being 90, that I wouldn't be around much longer. And she said, "You're not 90, you're 80. And I said, "Are you sure?" So I actually felt like, wow. And I've had that trouble in the past, so it's not just, I don't think, early Alzheimer's coming to me. My mother had Alzheimer's. I don't know what it was. I've always had the trouble with like a year, you know, like I was always like, I'd be thinking I was like 50 and I'd actually be 49 or something, whatever. It was always, well, and I think I may have mentioned on some of my YouTube videos is I'm 90 years old now or whatever. I'm not sure. If you see that on the video, okay, I'm not lying to you for some reason, you know. But I am not 90. I'm at 10 years younger. I'm 80. So the point being, I forgot what it is. I don't remember. Anyway, okay, well, she's confined to, you know, with her polio, when she came home with after polio, no, after cancer, she said that she couldn't, you know, walk, stand, or, you know, that her legs tingled or whatever. And my son and I tried to convince, well, stand up, you know, we'll hold just, you know. She says, I can't walk. And I said, oh, don't walk, just push yourself up from the wheel, you know, and to no luck. She's been wheelchair bound. So the television and the computer is really important to her. She watches television 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, she's either in bed or she's at the computer. And actually, I'm the same. I'm either sleeping or sitting here. Can do very little else. And she uses YouTube a lot she has an LG television set that I think uses a Roku operating system for the stuff. And so she has all those apps on there. And she has the YouTube app, and she uses it a lot. She doesn't log in when she's sitting at the computer. She just generally, plays some simple games, solitary and that kind of stuff when she's there. And she has logged in a few times on the computer to YouTube. But on her Roku TV, or LG, Roku TV, and she watches YouTube, the YouTube channel app, a lot. And she'll look up the different things. And so then last night at some point, a few hours ago, she said that she couldn't log into the YouTube app at all on so just a while ago I finally got around to checking it, and on the Roku there was something about YouTube had removed its such and such. So apparently I watched a video, I'm not sure which one of these people it was, and whoever said that that Roku and YouTube have been fighting for several months over things. And he listed the things that they're arguing. It's not so much money, it's other things. And so apparently it has now escalated to the point where the YouTube app does not work on Roku TV. And it's not going to work until they come to an agreement. I don't think it's not basically money, according to this guy, whichever one it was. I just watched his video. It's over other things. Roku is saying that YouTube is well, it's a charge that everybody's been making, that everybody makes against, YouTube, Google, Amazon, site, all those, the big Facebook, all those, the amount of control that they have. And there's, United States Congress is looking into forcing, and I think the European Union and other places are looking into forcing some of these major corporations to divest themselves and to split up into separate companies, the holdings that they have. Something like this happened back in the United States when I was a kid, and later. In the United States, the telephone company was one company, Southwestern Bell or whatever. They actually, I think, had some sections that were off in other, like you had Southwestern Bell, and I think actually maybe in some other states it was still Southwestern Bell, but maybe they might have had a different name, like, I don't know, in the South it might have been, it wasn't, but it could have been like, Dixie Bell or something, but it was all the same company. And the company had the same attitude that companies and organizations like that have, and it was, fuck you, we run this system, it's our system, and they had like, you could not install your own extension phone. You had to have the Southwestern Bell come out and plug in an extension cord, an extension thing for you. Just everything like that. And that also was the situation when, before, Google, before YouTube, before all those things, back in the days that some of us old people were running bulletin board systems and doing various things. There was, if you wanted to make a phone, there was only one phone company. There was only one long-distance phone company. If and it was the same as the telephone company, the local telephone company. If you wanted to make a long-distance phone call, you paid a lot of money to make a long-distance phone call. I was, living in Missouri. If you wanted to make a phone call in Missouri, from Kansas City to St. Louis, or Kansas City to Sedalia, or something like that, it cost way more to make those long-distance phone calls than it did to call from like Kansas City to Washington, D.C., or Kansas City to Chicago. They just had all these rules, and it was like, fuck you, we are we're the telephone company. A part of the psyche of people, and it's not just old people, having to do with the internet and the World Wide Web and all this type of stuff. There's a philosophy or a thing that you young people probably don't even understand, of resentment and way of wanting things, and because of the early days, when I started my computer bulletin board system in 1982, it was one of the first. Well, in Kansas City, Missouri, there were three computer bulletin board systems, and then I started mine. And people did not want to log in with their name. They wanted to, it was sort of like CB radio, whatever. They used an ID or something or other, you know. Big Bob or whatever. And one of the main reason was, I think, that one was CB radio was so popular, that was part of it, but the thing was, people were convinced that the phone company was, and there was the phone company denied it, but the thought was that if you had a modem and were making these phone calls into computer bulletin board systems, that you were going to be charged extra because, you know, you had a modem. So people did not want to be identified as somebody having a modem. I had written my BBS program in BASIC, and it was a very basic program because I didn't know. I got my Radio Shack Model 1, and it came with a book on BASIC. And when I saw that modems were available, and at first I really didn't know what a modem was, but I bought one, and then I ended up buying another right away because it did AA, and I wasn't sure what AA was. It was auto answer. But when I got it then, okay, what can I do with AA? I paid that extra money for this, a new modem. And then I thought, well, there's 3 bulletin board systems in Kansas City. I can have a bulletin board system. So anyway, I flipped the BASIC book. Oh, okay. If I do this code here, it'll take the phone off the hook. That's what I did. And then the next day I flipped through page, each page was, I think, a basic command. Oh, if I do in-string key, I can make it then send out, welcome to Howard's notebook. Oh, okay, so I did that. The next day I go through, wait, I think with this command, and so before long I had a basic bulletin board system that I wrote. I couldn't afford, and I bought a Radio Shack Model 1 computer, but in order to add we're not talking, a hard drive, we're talking about a floppy drive, not one of these 3 little, things, big, that only held 360K of data. In order to add one of those, for the Radio Shack Model 1, you had to spend $350 just for a box that then had a place where you could connect in a floppy drive and a few other things. And I think it upgraded it to 48K of memory. Anyway, I really couldn't afford to spend $300, but I did I was able to upgrade by going a different route to 48K of memory. When it would come on and it would say, up in the corner, 48K of memory, I thought, who could ever need more than 48K of memory? Wow, I have 48K of memory. But I couldn't afford floppy drive, so everything was being saved onto a tape recorder. A Radio Shack tape recorder. Regular tape recorder,
This came back from a search.
Oh, that's my cell phone. Okay. Okay, maybe you'll be quiet for a second. So anyway, I was able to find a thing called an Electron Stringy Floppy. It was just a little box, really cute, and it used little tiny discs or little tiny tapes, like regular tapes that you might have seen from years ago. But this used little tiny tapes, and it was on an endless loop. And I ended up buying like 4 of those, and I could hook them to, and then that way I could send, with my basic, I could send a command to, get information from this, thing, pull up the user's information, and write information with another one of these at the same time and do that. So I had 4 of those hooked up. That was pretty fun to play with, and to issue these commands were written in my BBS program. Anyway, a guy called in, and I forget what let's say he was, I'll make up a name, Tech Tom. Guy logs in with the name Tech Tom. Then he hits chat, and he gets into chat with me. And he says, what software are you running? And I said, well, wrote it myself in BASIC. And he says, what kind of floppy drives, how many floppy drives do you have? I said, I don't have any. And he said, well, who wrote the BBS software that you're using? And this guy's name was Tom Wheeler, by the way, amateur radio operator, by the way. And but he wasn't using. He didn't give me his real name because at that point, well, he did in this conversation. And he said, so you wrote your own BBS? But I said, yeah. And he said, well, what floppy drive? He didn't even say, do you have a hard drive? What floppy drive? And I said, well, I can't afford the interface device. It's $350, and then the one floppy drive would be an extra $350. I forgot about that, didn't I? Telling you. And I said, and he's, like, well, you're using the tape recorder? And I said, well, not now. No, I'm using something I know you haven't heard of. It's a device called an Electron Stringy Floppy. And I've got 4 of them. They work great. And he said, yeah, I've heard about those. I said, oh, yeah. And he says, so what operating system are you using to control those? And I said, oh, it's called the Electron Stringy Floppy System or something, whatever it was, I can't remember. And he says, yeah, I've heard of that. He said, I wrote it. And I said, you did. I mean, of course, we're typing, But I believed him. And he said, yeah, I wrote it. He said, do you believe me? And I said, yeah, if you said you did, I believe that you did. And he says, well, type, and I forget what it was. So it says, type CMD, and I had the operating manual for the Electron Stringy Floppy operating system. And he said, I forget what it was, let's say, well, just type CMD / TOM or something, And I said, oh, okay. And it filled the screen with Tom Wheeler's name. I said, oh, wow. And he said, well, I've got a degree in electrical engineering from KU, Kansas University. And he says, I don't really know anything about, computer bulletin board systems and all this. He said, I'd like to come over and see, could I come over and see your system? And I said, well, it's not much. It's a Radio Shack Model 1, 48K of memory, and your floppy, or your Electron Stringy operating system. I said, that's it, but yeah, you're welcome to come on over. So he came on over, told me his real name, Well, I knew because of the Tom Wheeler on the thing. And he told me, you know, that uh, he didn't log into any places or tell anybody because he was afraid the phone company was going to charge extra. You know, everybody was. And hold that thought because I want to come back around to reminds me. Let's see. Anyway, so he came on over, and we talked, and he looked. I printed out on a printer the thing. I think I gave it to him on paper. He asked if he could have, you know, can I have? Could I? And I said, yeah. He said, I'd like to try to write a BBS program, and he called me a few days later, and he said, I've written a BBS program for you, and he brought it over. That's the last time I tried, you know, he could do stuff. I mean, he, you know, in a day or two's time, he wrote a BBS program. He was he was smart, really smart, and, but he was also a little bit, the way smart people are, I don't want to say arrogant. He didn't want, you know, because I was running then his BBS program, and when I wrote the BBS program, I had in there to search, you know, for people's names. I didn't care if somebody made up, if somebody called themselves George Washington or whatever. I didn't want people using, obviously, you know, fake things. I just wanted it to look. So anyway, somebody, you know, logged in and got me in chat and said, I can't log in with my name. It won't let me. And I said, well, it should. And I said, there's like, I don't know, 200, 300, 400 people that are logged in. He said, it won't let me. And I said, well, what's your name? He said, John Hancock. And I said, well, let me try to log in. And then I couldn't log in. And then I knew right away what, because the word cock was in his name, Hancock. And I said, that's it. And I said, because there's a search thing that I had done and Tom Wheeler had expanded on. And so I said, you know, I'll fix it for you. We'll fix it for you. So anyway, I sent a email to, or did I have to call him? Do we have email going then? And of course, Tom Wheeler said, no. It's, you know, he says, I wrote this program that, you know, he didn't say it's perfect or whatever. He said, no. I said, yes. I said, okay, watch this, you know. And he said, oh, I see what it is. And so he went in and fixed those that searched in a string for, because before Tom wrote a BBS program for me, I had a guy that insisted, and it was kind of like a puzzle. I enjoyed doing it. And he insisted, I forget what he wanted, wasn't Systop, it was, I forget, Hacker, Hunter, or I forget, something like that. And I said, no. But then I would see that he logged in the next day. And okay, wait a minute, how? Because I'd put in whatever his name was. Let's say Hacker, what was? I should remember it, because he was kind of a pest. Must have been a smart guy because he went on. He was young. He went on to join the Navy and get into the nuclear submarine service. And they only let people pretty smart in there. Harry Hacker might have been it. But anyway, so I looked at the thing. How did he log in? Because it showed like, oh, wait a minute, I see. There's a blank space in front of the, you know, Harry, And so I changed the thing so it did a string search to make sure there wasn't any blank spaces in front or back. And then he would do something else. And I would, okay, how did I, and so I was putting that code in there. And I was helping improve my program, but at the same time, and I was learning at the same time. So anyway, the other thing with my, after Tom Wheeler wrote it, and then that thing popped up with the, the word cock embedded in, that, and that was fixed. And then the next thing was, I don't know how long it went. Somebody said it won't let me sign in a new, account or whatever. And I said, no, it should. And he said, no, it won't. I said, let me try. And sure enough, it wouldn't. And so then I looked at the code, line by line by line. I wait a minute, down here there's I forget how what it was put, like set a string of such and such 500, or something. Maybe it was 250, I don't know, 500. Okay, wait a minute, that's setting a stack or something or other, and then checking, and I see that I have, let's say it was 500. I see that I have 500 people signed up. That's got to be it. I called Tom Wheeler. No. And I said, well, what's this string of 500? And he said, oh, yeah, I set that at 500. Okay, all you need to do is, and I changed it, and that took care of that. So now, back to the phone company. So the phone company got, Congress broke up the phone company. They made Southwestern Bell Telephone. Well, one they made, like the entire United States, couldn't all be Southwestern Bell Telephone. You had to have regional ones. So Southwestern Bell broke up into separate corporations. So you had, I don't know, Midwest and East Coast, West Coast, or whatever. And then the people who manufactured telephones, that was AT&T was the one. Yeah, AT&T was the one for the long distance phone lines. So it made them break up, and then it made the people who manufactured the telephone equipment, made them break up into a couple companies or something rather, and that was good. That helped everybody, and that was good, and these companies thrived and did better. Now later on, years later, the breakup of Southwestern Bell and AT&T, American Telephone and Telegraph and whatever, that was, hailed as a great idea. Probably was. But then they did it with the airlines, and that was not good. Breaking up the airlines into smaller groups, that was not good, in my opinion. And they've done that to other things. And now there is, and they may be right this time to do it, that Google's too big, and Amazon is too big, and all these are too big, and they need to be, and they, European Union and others are feeling the same way, too much power. So, so now you have the situation where Google, who owns YouTube and everything else, is telling Roku, company, you have to do the following. Now in the past it's been like money, for things, and this isn't about money so much, it's about, about power. So, but there's a movement to, anyway, this YouTube problem, if you have a Roku TV, it's a problem right now. I think they'll solve it because Google has just upped the, made the change where now, you can't use the YouTube app in Roku and get anything. So it's not just money. In fact, I don't think it's very much of money. It's about, control. If you find, I'll put the link below if I can find a good explanation of, and I found a pretty good one, and I don't know which one it was. I didn't save it. Or did I? Wait a minute. No. Maybe if I go back, that site will show up. No. Anyway, if you have a Roku, if you have an LG television that has, or if you have a television set that uses a Roku, or a, Roku, you can't get YouTube that way. Now you can still go to your computer and log in and do everything. Now for my ex-wife, because she's handicapped, it's hard for her really to, she does sit at the computer a lot, and she can, log into YouTube that way, but she really doesn't like to do that. She likes to sit at the computer and play some games, and then go to her bed and, lay in bed and watch her big screen television with her Roku remote control. That's part of it, apparently, is the remote control. Roku has come out with voice thing for the remote control, and that's one of the things that YouTube or Google is saying they want if somebody is watching the YouTube app, and I'm not sure this is exactly, but I'll give you an example way I think it is. Google has, a music section, or a music thing that you can subscribe to, and other things. Okay, if you're watching YouTube, and you have the Roku, television system, you maybe have an LG, television, and you're in YouTube and you're watching the raccoon guy or something, and you decide, I think I'd like to hear some Johnny Cash music, and you say Johnny Cash music into the search. Google is insisting that when you do that it goes to, you're already in YouTube, and that it goes to YouTube Music. And the Roku people, their device may send you to Apple Music or something, or for that. And there's a few things like that come down to it. So right now they're at they have a disagreement, and I'm sure eventually they're going to, but this is the kind of thing that I think is going to end up, it's not going to matter to me. I'm not 90, by the way, but I'm only 80, but I still think it's not going to matter much to me, because I don't have that much longer. But I think it's going to be one of the things that's going to force a breakup of Amazon, Facebook, and all these type, a change to the way they, and to the power that they have. Anyway, if you can find a better explanation of what's going on between Roku and Google, let me know, or leave it. You can actually leave a link below, if you find something here. And thank you very much for watching.